The old Sale Jail, also known as HM Prison Sale, was built in 1882 under the control of William Gardner, who was governor. It became abandoned in April 1997. We used to drive down every December to Lake Tyers for a weekend. It wasn't an exploring thing, but Flirt, who was a member of the Cave Clan and also a friend of my wife, he kept pointing out a couple of years, he said, "Oh, what about that abandoned prison in Sale?" Because he's not like crazy, keen, excited urban explorer, I was like, oh, he doesn't sound too excited about it. It's probably nothing much. And then, I don't know, like a lot of the places I explored, I sort of just ended up after a while, thought, oh yeah, I'll go check it out. And then end up exploring it just before the end of its time, as was the case with the Sale Jail. Finally, after Flirt had mentioned it a couple of years, I did go out there, and sure enough, it was an abandoned jail. First thing I thought is that wall is giant, how I'm going to get in? Well, you can see how we got in. This is, I think I first used it in our newsletter Il Drano. This is the image I used. Once again, there's not heaps on this, considering it's a jail. There's not heaps online about it. I can't find anything about what type of jail it was. I've been told reliably that, well, some people say it was a pedophile prison. Other people just say in general it was a sex offenders prison. It turns out when we were exploring it that it was half demolished, but you could tell it had been half demolished for quite a while, as you can see in some of these photos. I think I ended up going in it maybe half a dozen times. The first thing everyone wanted to do when we got there was pose in front of the main gate, which looks pretty cool. The first time there was a group of Cave Clan people, as you can see here. The second time was with a workmate, Birdie. And then the third time that I have photos of anyway was with Dirge. Dirge, without going too far into the story, she came down to my place once. She had to get away from Melbourne. She had a bit of a private issue and was a bit upset. Yeah, and I said, do you want to go for a drive? I know there's a place a couple of hours away. It's a pretty cool explore. I reckon you'll like it. Take your mind off things. On the way, we popped into the Morwell Reception Center. We could only get into the exterior buildings, and the main part was boarded up. So I went back on my own just after I'd been on a job interview, and I was wearing in a suit and all that sort of thing, and shoes. And I removed a bit of wood and I went in, and this place was really cool. It had like piano organs and double spiral stairways, like where performers would come down. I set up the video, but I heard this clicking noise and I thought, oh, that doesn't sound good. And it was a sensor. And I was like, oh, I need to get out of here. I started filming, but then I thought, no, go, get out. I got out and I put a bit of wood back up and just hand screwed a couple of screws in so you couldn't tell. That was where I got in. There's like 50 wooden things screwed up. Anyway, I walked out back of this reception centre, which was well and truly abandoned. And I sort of was at the back. I couldn't see the front gate. Blindly, I sort of started to walk around. Luckily, I didn't walk too quickly because I looked and I saw the edge of a police divvy parked in the front. So they'd unlocked the gates and driven in. So they were obviously walking or at the building or walking towards it. I couldn't see them. So as quickly as I can, I walked out the back. There was a hole in the fence and I got out the back of the property, and then I walked down a laneway down the side. My car was parked just 30 metres on the other side of the police cars. I still have my bloody video camera with me, and I regret to this day I should have just kept it filming and walked past the cops. I literally walked down which is a proper walkway, laneway, near the Morwell water tower at the back of Morwell. You see it, an old white one. And then I thought, oh, should I walk away? And I thought, then I'm going to be walking around Morwell, and if they do see me cruising later, you know. So I just turned and walked towards them. They literally glanced up at me for like half a second. You know, they were looking for kids or bums or something, you know, homeless people or druggies or whatever. They didn't even batter an eyelid. So there's a tip for you. Dress like a twit. You're going for a job interview or you're going to court, and there's a fair chance I'll ignore you. So anyway, but back to when I first was out with Dirge. We got to the jail and I was like, It's a pretty cool location, like these cells are really cool, and it's a bit demolished, but it's pretty awesome. And we pulled up out the front and see, the giant wall around it. And we walked to go around, and it was like, oh, hang on, the back wall's gone. And there was bulldozer on top of it. The whole place was demolished. And you can sort of see in these photos where Dirge is posing at the front of it, she just looks really down. She was down anyway. She's not just down because of the place being bulldozed. But when we did go through it, it was the same thing. Everyone wanted to pose at the front gate. Everyone wanted to pose in a jail, in a cell. The toilet jail was popular. I think there's one here of Hatchet, yours truly. One thing is that we have the rule that, you don't take stuff from sites. I only take stuff from a site when it's in the middle of being demolished. Although this one technically was in the middle of being demolished, but for some reason they stopped, which we found out later. There was a legal, I think maybe like Heritage Victoria or something like that, but there was a legal thing and they stopped for I think like 8 months, and that's when we were exploring it. The cells had these cool wood oak doors with wrought iron hinges and locks, and I don't know how well you can see them in these photos. As a matter of fact, a lot of these photos are pretty crap. I was hoping I might find some better quality ones, but they're alright for me to tell you these stories, I guess. I was like, damn it. Although, how do you remove a prison cell door? The worst thing was when I went with Dirge and they were bulldozing it, the doors were all in amongst the rubble and shit. And that would have been great. Like if you had a cellar or something, a wine cellar, they were awesome doors. In this day and age, normally they keep everything, and maybe they did and we just saw a couple of damaged ones or something. Yeah, so it was a bit sad. One thing I remember was the toilet block had big windows in front of it and there was no doors on the toilets. And the windows had blinds. And if they were open as they were when we were there, they just went out into the indoor, like yard, foyer, whatever you call it, where all the prisoners were sort of hanging around. So basically, if you were taking a shit, dudes could just look through the window and look at you. But there was a handwritten message in the toilet block that said something along the lines of, if you just do your business and get out, we'll leave the blinds down. If you muck about in here, the blinds go up. So yeah, that was, I don't know, it was just a little insight into how prisons worked back in the day. This is a very old prison. Now, the Sale police station has moved into the site. They've been there for about 10 years now, since 2014. As you can see here, it all looks quite nice. But what happened was when the police moved into the side of the old Sale jail, the other Sale police headquarters became abandoned. Now, they were abandoned for a long time. Well, you can see sort of in the media, there's lots of references to people cracking the shits about, because it was right on a lake and all that, and it was just this big, ugly place, and it just gradually got more and more vandalised. I used to have lunch at the back of it for 9 years, and I only explored it for the last year of that. So yeah, I'm probably not the most inquisitive person when it comes to abandoned buildings, but also it was because I was working, so I had to be careful about that. Although I have taken quite a few risks while working. I'll do a video one day about the Morwell Briquette factory. One day I was having lunch out the back, and this is after I'd explored it, and it was lunchtime, on a weekday, and there's a hole in the back of the fence. As you can see in this video, it was quite easy to get into this place at one stage. But anyway, we're having lunch, and these two kids, like teenagers, go to walk through the hole in the fence, and there's a guy standing like 25 metres behind them, walking his dog, and he's just watching. And I just called out from my car window. I said, "Oi, the two kids, that guy over there is watching you. Wait till he walks off." And they're looking at me like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "You're going into the cop shop, right?" I said, "Just stay here for a minute and he'll go," which he did. Finally, they walked in. I was like, I'm going to go get a Coke, so I walked over to the petrol station, like a few minutes away. When I came back, there was a police car double parked next to our vehicle, and my offsider was talking to the police. I went up, and the police goes, "Oh, the lady in the car up the front, because lots of people park here to have lunch, she said that you guys talked to some kids that were going in the police station. And I was like, oh, yeah. Obviously, I'd just been to the shop. And I said to the cops, oh, yeah, I just saw them walking into Sale like a few minutes ago. The cops were like, what do they look like? And I said, I don't know, mate. I didn't take any notice. And the cops took off. I don't know, 15 minutes later, the two kids walked out. Well, actually, no, as we were driving off, I looked back as we went around to the front of the building. I saw them walking off down the street. And I thought, oh, well, I did my good deed. Other people, when I mentioned that story on my Instagram account, people were like, you should have let them get caught. They're dumbasses and all this sort of shit. But I just looked at it as like, they're not bashing people or taking drugs and stealing shit, you know. They're going into an abandoned building, so good luck to them. But yeah, the place was trashed pretty bad. I didn't even go upstairs. When I visited, it was just so trashed. As you can see by the photos I've shown here, they were just too smashed up. So I was just more interested in the cells at the back, which one explorer, she locked herself in them and had to be rescued. So embarrassing. I took Dead Chopper there once. He knew the place pretty well, actually. Knew it better than me. I used to take people in there, you know, just workmates. Say, oh, come and I'll get a photo of you in jail. Including Birdie, he was a roughhead. He would have spent a bit of time in these jails back in the day. Another place that could have been a good explore was the old Nylex building in Sale. There's a rule that when you post photos of locations, you don't give away the location. And so here you can see this photo is when I was posting it when it was still explorable, and then this photo is after it's already been turned into housing or taken over by a company and used as a factory or whatever. So yeah, there's a little bit of behind the scenes magic. But I never explored this one. There was a caretaker on site, and once again I was there for work. I had sort of planned to go down on a weekend. They had security checking it. You can see the carded lock, and yet a few metres away there's just giant holes in the fence, so it wouldn't have been that hard to explore, I don't think. But with the caretaker on site, I don't know if he lived there or whatever. You know, just a big factory. Personally, I'm not really into them. I like the prisons and jails and power stations and hospitals and that sort of thing. So once again, thanks for watching. I've got a couple more of these to do, the photo ones where I don't really have video. But yeah, I think the drain walk should be back next week, with any luck. Or maybe after the Australia Day weekend. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Cheers.